Welcome to Goody Tutus, where we talk about all things cake and cookie and I don't know what else related. All the things.
Whatever we feel like.
Whatever, yeah.
Whatever goofy stuff pops in your head.
My head, your head. So, welcome. Glad you're here. Hope you guys are having a good Wednesday, whatever day this is. Hi. So today the topic of conversation is pricing. So we're going to talk about how we price, the importance of making sure that you are pricing your cakes or cookies or really whatever you make correctly. And
so I guess this is probably a little bit more for our other cake and cookier people.
Yeah, a little bit. I guess it would apply to you though if you're doing other things too though.
Yeah, other kinds of businesses.
We're at my house and my puppy is playing with a rock. Pause. I'll be right back. You carry the show, Bunny.
Her dog likes to eat rocks. Well, she doesn't eat them, but she
chews on them.
Brings them in from outside and brings them around.
Turkey. I put it on the table and she tried to steal it back.
You have to stay in your pocket.
No, it's going in my pocket. So, anyways, hi guys. Happy Wednesday. Thanks for hopping on. Again, we were talking about pricing today, so yeah.
Fun stuff.
This
is part of the work that we really don't want to do.
Yeah.
It's not that fun.
No.
But you have to figure it out before you can really move forward and grow as a business. You can't just go, oh, well, that looks like $10. Let's do $10.
Right. Okay, so I guess, where do we want to start? At the beginning?
At the beginning is the perfect beginning. It's perfect to start in the beginning.
So when you're getting started, it's really important to, one, value yourself and your time and realize how much you're putting into this. So when most cake and cookie decorators, really artists of any kind, will start out as a hobby because you have to build some skills before you can sell your items, hopefully.
And I think sometimes people jump into businesses when they're not really ready. They think, their sister or their mom says, you should be selling stuff. And they're like, oh, I should be selling stuff. And they just jump into it, and they're just not ready.
Right.
As far as skill goes and as far as knowing how to run a business and having pricing set, they just aren't ready.
Yeah, so it's really important to do your research and to practice and make sure that you have a good product before you start offering it to the public. So one of the things to consider when you're first, I guess, starting out is, have you worked for all of your friends and family and given them items? That's something that, we both did when we first got started. Everyone was our guinea pig, and we gave away a lot of free cake and free cookies, and we really appreciate all of the feedback that we had. But it's important when you're doing that to ask for feedback, to work on your skills. When you're first doing a fondant cake, I'm going to tell you the first few that I did were a nightmare. And I didn't know to chill them, and I didn't know to straighten edges, and there were some that were a hot mess. So I was really relieved that I wasn't charging anybody for them because no one should have paid for that because it was not good.
And what's funny about that too is I feel like in the beginning when we started, there wasn't a lot of stuff to look at. So we didn't have a lot to compare to. And so now looking back, we can be like, oh my gosh, look what we started. But there wasn't a whole lot. There weren't all these online classes. There weren't tons of videos. There just wasn't a lot of stuff. It was all trial and error and figuring it out. And so I think for us, we probably thought we did better than we did when we started because we didn't have anything to look at. I feel like now there's so much to see. You can see examples of everybody's work, and you know what you want your work to look like.
So, yeah. What else do we do when we were getting started?
We probably, when we first started charging, we all underpriced.
Yeah, and that is really, really common in the cake and the cookie world, is to severely underprice your items. sometimes to the point where you're losing money. That was very common with me in the beginning when I was doing this. I was spending more on supplies, spending more on, just all of the little things that you needed to actually make anything. I was spending money on that I wasn't earning back. So in the very beginning, this was definitely a hobby that was pricey.
Right.
So.
And I think that a lot of that comes from, it is an art, and sometimes people don't value art. And so it's even hard to value your own art because you get that from all areas and you feel like it's not a real job. It's a pretend job. It's just a hobby job.
Right.
Yeah. But it is a real art. It is a real job. It is a lot of work. Mm-hmm. It is physically demanding, which I think that people don't understand. Don't think that it is, but it really is. We're just long hours. We're tired.
Yeah. So,
So in the beginning, when you're getting started, you want to make sure that you look at all of the different things that go into whatever you're making. You know, if you're making a cake, the time that goes into the decorating is not all that you want to look at. You also want to think about the time that it takes to go shopping, the time that it takes to deliver it if you're taking it to them, the time for baking. So you have to add the baking time in there also. What else?
Making frostings, making, even making, cleaning up your kitchen, cleaning up and having to rearrange your life around all of that is all things that you need to consider. Because for us, at this point, I would say we have very much streamlined our processes. So we can get a 2-tier cake, a birthday cake that has a lot of decorations done, we can get done in 6 to 8 hours. If delivery is more than 30 minutes away, then you're adding more time on that, because you have to remember when you're delivering, you're considering the time it takes you to get there, but also your time to get back.
So you'd want to add a delivery fee.
Yeah.
If it's too far away.
Yeah, so all of that are things that you have to take into consideration. We have a set location, which is the furthest we will deliver, and beyond that, we will charge a delivery fee. And usually, it's kind of priced, by the mile. But all of that are things to consider. Also, when you're pricing, you should make sure you consider your skill level. There are people out there who can charge $500-800 for a small cake, because they have really impressive skill sets. They know their market, they know their clientele, and that means that they aren't making cakes for just everyone that they know. They're, have reached a degree of
skill and
notoriety.
How well they're known.
Yeah. So all of that comes into consideration, but we do want to remind people that part of what you're paying for, when you're paying for a cake, and for us, we don't mind telling you that we charge $7 a serving starting price for our cakes. What you're paying for is at least 8 hours of work. If there's a lot of conversation that's going back and forth, then you're paying for all of the time we put in.
Planning and the prepping and
the
giving
emails.
You ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so all of that... it's really hard, because in this industry, or to people who have no problem going and getting a cake from Costco, we will hear over and over, it's just flour and sugar and eggs. Why is it so expensive? Just remember, you're paying for our time, you're paying for our skill set, you're paying for the assurity that you are going to get a cake that tastes delicious, that looks really amazing, that looks like what you have asked us to make. It's going to be there and delivered on time.
Yeah, and even the fact that we've taken time to come up with what recipes people like, developing different flavors and recipes for just everything. Mm-hmm. All of that you have to take that into consideration, because when you get a cake at the grocery store or Costco, those cakes are coming in frozen and ready to go. Like, you can't really say that's the freshest ingredients.
Right, or things like frostings that come in a big tub. So you're paying for different quality. You're paying for us to make things fresh for you.
And I think they get 12 minutes to decorate your cake. Like, it's just a small amount of time.
Short. Anybody who's ever worked in a bakery, like in a grocery store or Costco type place, knows
it's a hard job.
that it's a hard job, and you have to work very quickly, and there's a lot of time schedules. So we don't want to take away from any of that, because there is a lot of skill that goes into that, and the people who do those are much needed. There's a lot of people who that's all they want, and that's what they love.
And that's totally fine, because not a custom cake is not for every family that needs a cake, and that's fine.
Right, and that's also something that you have to remember if you are a cake decorator. Sometimes it is, it can hurt our feelings when someone's like, you're just way too expensive. And you have to remember not to take that as a personal affront against your art.
Personally, they could keep that to themselves.
I know. Right?
I mean, I realize that we're expensive, and I am okay with that. You don't have to tell us that. You can just go, okay, I'll let you know, and move on with your life, and just don't order.
Right. But as the designer, you need to remember that it's just not in everyone's budget. It's just not feasible for everyone to have a custom cake. We each have 3 kids. We have to make choices on their birthdays as to what we're going to get and not get. It's just like that with everyone.
Most of the time, our kids do not get cakes.
Every couple birthdays.
We're like, we'll go out to dinner and you can have whatever the dessert is.
Right. Yeah, who wants ice cream?
Yeah.
So yeah, just keep that in mind, and don't be offended that not everyone will be able to afford you. Not everyone will choose to spend their money on custom items, and that also goes out into the cookie world. I feel like for us, we get a little bit more about cookies being expensive, because it's true. A small cookie, starts at $5.50 for us, but cookies take forever. If you've ever taken one of our cookie classes, you will know that you'll spend 2 hours in that class trying to decorate 6 cookies. And granted, that's the first time, but what we're trying to show you is that these are long processes. People spend a lot of time. If you've ever seen a really, really intricately decorated cookie, someone could have spent 30 minutes to an hour on that. It just takes a long time.
Some of them take so long, I don't think that, there's occasionally times when we want to make a cookie just to make it, because we will never sell it.
Right.
Like, to be able to make any money selling that cookie, it would be just way beyond what anybody could afford.
Yeah.
So we also wanted to talk a little bit about, so if you're trying to price your stuff, you need to figure out what you would like to make an hour. It really is important to give yourself an hourly wage, and that means that you take all those things that we talked about out of your pricing. So let's say you're charging, $30 for a dozen cookies, and you take out all the time you spent and all the planning and the supplies and going to the store, and then you know how much time you have left, or to make the cookie, you need to figure that out. So let's say it takes you, how long for a dozen cookies? It takes a while.
4 hours.
4 hours. Are you making $5 an hour after all of those things are taken out? That's just not worth it. You're going to burn yourself out, and you're really also discrediting the industry as a whole. Because if you're willing to do something for nothing and not make any money, you're going to burn yourself out. You're just going to be done. You're not going to be able to do it. And that definitely is a hobby. Like, you couldn't have a business making $5 an hour and be able to afford to live. You couldn't eat for $5 an hour, let alone pay your bills. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you're giving yourself an hourly wage that will actually support you. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know what that is. It's probably different for different areas of the country. Mm-hmm. But we try to make it so that we're making between $20 and $25 an hour. So that depends on, a lot of things, but it's basically cakes or cookies. We figure out how long that they're going to take and take all of those other time suckers out. And what's left needs to be $20 to $25 per hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that also is the reason why we have minimums. So if you just want 12 cookies from us, occasionally we will make sets, and we'll make it in a bundle and go sell it at Studio 223 in Gilbert. But
for holidays,
yeah,
special
for holidays, things like that. But what's happening when you're able to just get 12 cookies from us, or 6 cookies, or a cookie bundle, or even individual cookies, because we do sell quite a bit of individual items over at Studio 223 in Gilbert. What's happening when you're able to get that from us is we're making it in a bunch. We're making them bulk. So we're popping out 100 to 200 cookies, and then we are able to kind of break them down and sell them individually if we think there is a market for that. Now, we also have to take into consideration that sometimes they won't sell, and that's a chance that we have to take if we're willing, if we're going to kind of break them up into smaller packages. But I know sometimes it can be frustrating for people. Here's Linda. When they just want a dozen cookies. And some places, especially storefronts, or there are some really great little cookie shops in town or cupcake shops in town that just do the individual items like that. What we're talking about is people like us who have a custom studio. We don't do retail. We only do custom orders. So for us, it just isn't economical to do those small amounts. So that's why we pretty much have a straight across the board $200 minimum. Because for $200, we know that the time we're going to put into it will hopefully get us the $20 to $25 an hour return that we're looking for. So
that's how you determine too if you have to go up. That's our minimum. So if the cookie or the cake is detailed, it may be more expensive because we know it's going to take longer, so we have to allow for that time difference.
Yeah.
What else?
So talking about, I know this isn't the most fun conversation in the world, but
it's not super fun for us either.
Not, we would rather just make everything out of smiles and laughters and accept hugs.
Rainbow and glitter.
Yeah, sometimes we need real money too.
All the time. All the time we need real money.
Every day we need real money.
We have bills.
We have kids. They eat a lot.
Oh my gosh.
They eat so much. So much.
I feel like I have to go to Costco for the
every day.
Giant size everything.
So much.
Every other day.
Yeah. One more thing we want to talk about before we wrap this up is donations.
We love donating. But not to everybody.
Not to everything and not to everybody. So we try to choose. We try to kind of look at our year. And we know there are certain events that come up every year that we definitely want to donate to. And we will mark them on our calendar, try and spread that out. But as a business owner, as a sugar artist, you have to decide what things you're going to donate to, and you need to keep in mind that donations are not the same as advertising. They're not the same. You cannot always donate something with the intention that it is you're trading out dollar for dollar advertising, because we have found that just doesn't work the same.
No.
It just, no matter what.
Donations usually do not turn into, nobody refers you from a donation generally.
Yeah.
I can't think of any
There's
ever
not a
turned
ton.
into some sort of, big business thing or anything. So.
Yeah, so keep that in mind when you are figuring out your donations, because trust us, it's really hard for us to say no, particularly when it's a worthy cause. So you have to be, you just have to decide. You have to be careful, because again, you don't want to burn yourself out, but you have to keep in mind, if you are donating something, you need to donate it with the intention that it is a free gift. There shouldn't be strings attached. There shouldn't be expectations of making hundreds of dollars of incoming orders. And that really, if you can change your mindset about donations in that way and just decide that this is just something you are going to give without expecting anything in return, then donations will become a wonderful part of your business. If you are wanting to exchange it, that's a different thing. If you are wanting to trade services, which we are really lucky, and there's been some really awesome things that we've been able to do trade services on. There's some different websites, wedding websites, different events we've been able to be a part of where we have said to not have to pay your yearly fee, we will come and bring that same amount of dollars worth of product. And for that, that's, for us, that's a really great trade-off because we're not fronting as much money, but we're able to get something in return. So that's different. That's going into it knowing that you're trading, that it's a trade, not a donation.
Right. And networking meetings too, networking groups, there's tons of them. I think that we've found that as we've gotten further along, they don't help as much. But sometimes they'll ask you to come and showcase your work, and they allow you to come for free. So if you want to try that out, you can. But again, I think go to networking events with the intention of meeting people and having fun, as opposed to expecting that everybody's going to start referring you and you're going to get tons of business from it, because you're probably not.
Yeah.
You have to actually get to know people and have relationships, and then they want to refer you and they like you, and
Yeah. So just remember how you present yourself, how you present your business. If you underestimate yourself, if you undervalue yourself, that is a really hard thing to get out from underneath. When you price too low, when you give away everything for free, when you don't value your time and yourself and your artistry, other people won't. So if you don't value it, other people won't. So you have to be your biggest advocator as far as what you have to contribute and what you are offering. And just know that your time is worth it, and people are lucky to have your art. And, we're not saying you need to be snots about it, but we're not saying you need to be full of yourself.
Because one of the things, like, you always start out giving away things or doing it super cheap because you just want them to pay for the supplies so that you have something to make. Because honestly, you can't make a cake or cookies every day and not have anywhere for it to go. If you're practicing and trying to get your skills better, but at some point you do have to start charging, and so the people who you've been giving things away to are probably going to push back a little bit.
Right.
And even if they're family members, like, we're not saying that you don't give them a discount, but decide on how much that is and stick to it, because again, you're still worth your time, and everybody has a million family members, and you know that they have a million events, and you could be doing free stuff every week if you don't. So although they're going to be unhappy about it, you have to give yourself, what you're going to do for them and just stick to it for everybody. So you decide if you're going to give a discount and move on. And if they don't want to pay for it, then,
Yeah. And
that's
just,
okay.
We've both found that it's important to communicate. I'll be the first to say that when I started raising prices, it was really hard for me to communicate that to the people who had stuck by me and who had ordered things for years and years. But it was oftentimes the orders were I really wasn't making any money, and I was almost doing them at a wash because the time versus what I was charging just wasn't making sense. So it was really hard for me to have the conversation with people and say, I'm increasing my prices. That's not fun. No. We hate doing it. So we're totally with everyone.
And we do it, we've done it several times since we've started working together because, just because we're not raising prices because we enjoy it, but because the prices go up for us too. If you think about like the supplies and gas and, all the things that we have to do and buy, all that goes up too. And so when we have to go up on our prices, it's kind of hard. Yeah. So we generally will tell people, when they call to order, if they haven't ordered since the new price, we'll tell them, we're going to give you the old price this time, but next time, this is what it is.
Yeah, and that's a good way to approach it. So, we're in, August? So if you're considering if you're considering raising your prices for next year, a good thing to do would be everyone who's contacting you this last part of the year to let them know. Anyone who's contacting you for a cake that's more than 6 months away, I feel like it's pretty fair to say, hey, you know what, as of the new year, I just want to let you know my prices are increasing to this dollar amount. be aware this is what your total would be versus what your total would be right now, and just explain, you know, I value myself and my time and my family and everything I put into this, and I would love to still work with you. And then if they cannot afford that, don't be offended. Don't let it hurt your feelings. Just remember, that's life. Not everybody can afford everything. So.
Every time your prices go up, you're going to lose a few people. But you're also going to get new people. Yeah. It just happens. And for some reason, sometimes there are some people who think they're getting a better product when the price is higher. Mm-hmm. So there's just different mindsets.
Right. And real quick, and we're almost done here. It's been a little long. But I did want to mention, you know, we appreciate everyone who tags us on, you know, community Facebook pages, or, you know, someone will say, I'm looking for some cookies or a cake, and, you know, people are so great. Our friends are great to tag us. We just want to make sure that, you know, people know that when we reply, and oftentimes on groups like that, if specifically if someone says, I need a cheap cake, it's okay for us to reply to them and say, hey, you know what, I don't think I fit what you're looking for. Because we find a lot of times in these kind of Facebook groups or things like that, people are looking to get a 2-tier cake for $40, and then they can't find it, or the person who wants to give that to them or who will do that, it turns out not to be great quality. So,
or they get canceled.
Yeah.
We get a lot of people who email us with last minute requests because the person who was going to do their cake bailed on them. And I sometimes wonder if it's because that person isn't charging that much. Mm-hmm. So maybe they don't feel like they have a legitimate business, so they don't mind canceling it because they were only going to make $40 and spend 8 hours of their time. Right. So they weren't making anything. Mm-hmm. They were going to basically cover supplies. Right. So that happens a lot. Mm-hmm. And we generally can't take last minute cakes. And if they were planning to pay $40, they're really not going to like our $200 minimum, because that same size is $210 from us. Right. So last minute or not, they're not going to want to do that.
Right. So, yeah. Anything else?
I feel like that was a lot of information. Right. If you have any questions, let us know, though.
We just really want to encourage all of the other cookie and cakers that watch us. Value yourself, value your time, be wise about how much you're charging. Don't overcharge, but don't undercharge. It's really kind of a funny balance that
it's really just figuring it out. Like, if you do this already and you have not figured out what you're making per hour, I challenge you to go figure it out. I want to know what you're making per hour and if you think that it's worth it. Because I feel like most people just jump in, they don't figure out what they're making, and they don't realize how little they're making. Yeah. So it's really hard when you're starting out and you're not making any money and you're like, where's all my money going?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. There was a time when I realized that the checkout person at In-N-Out Burger, the teenager that was working there, made more than I did per hour. And I was like, oh boy, I need to reassess this situation, because that's just not wise for anybody. And I was making 1 million cakes a week and never saw my family and never slept ever. And it just, I was turning my wheels, and part of that was so that I can learn and grow, but I just also was not willing to make the hard decisions and not willing to value myself and my time. So gotta figure that out.
I mean, like we said, we started out the same way, but I think that it would have been nice if we'd have known more of this when we started. So it's better to start out being realistic and knowing what you're doing and what you want to give away, what versus what you can, you know, because I think everybody has things that they are good at. So you could sell those things for a decent wage and practice on something once a week or once every couple of weeks and not go bankrupt. So it's just good to know when you're starting how to start and what to do.
So again, we're always happy to answer questions. If anybody has any questions or thoughts,
or any other things that we missed that maybe
because we don't think of everything. That's for sure. So, anyways, happy Wednesday, you guys. Hope you're having a good week, and happy baking.
See you next week.
See you next week. Bye.